As when I'm doing a drawing of the tail and the bum, he says, it's a bit too exaggerated, Dick.
But that's a better drawing, though, isn't it? I mean, if you get that space.
I think, to me, it's still a little exaggerated.
Sticking
the
out
up
there.
kick there is a little exaggerated.
He hated over-animation. I mean, over-animation, like Tex Avery, is hilarious. And it can be very funny today. It's some funny. But Ken said, listen, my work's very conservative. I'm too conservative, maybe, but I just don't think it's funny to flash things around all over the place. And of course, that's why his stuff was so funny, that he would keep it very subtle. And when I learned this stuff about loosening things up, I'd be doing his in-betweens. I'd have a hand here, and it would be, Ken would say, cushioning down here, easing down or slowing down. He'd say, I'd put in a drawing here or something, and Ken would say, God damn it, what are you doing? So he'd make sure I did it right. And he said, oh, I'm too conservative, but I just think it's fun. And of course, with the Roadrunner, I mean the Coyote, when the anvil's falling on his head and the eye just goes like that, he can step out of the way but never does. And Ken would it would just go something like this, some very slight movement, and then thud. And the crunched up remains would run away. But Ken would underplay everything. And of course it made it 3 times as funny, because you could watch it. I was 36, and my studio had won over 100 international awards. Ken was working with us, and I was learning fast. And I thought I was doing really well. Then I had a massive shock. We went to see the Jungle Book, and I thought, oh, this is going to be pastel Disney, and we sit in there and say, yep, here it is, and there's the baby, and going to be adopted by wolves who walk like government issue stuff or whatever, and not very interesting. And then there's a new cut to Mowgli standing there, and suddenly, and it was kind of a hold, suddenly the proportions changed, and he looked like a real East Indian boy. That was a beautiful drawing. And then the movements changed. And then the panther comes in and he's looking different and wonderful. And then they start going up the tree, that sequence in the tree. And he goes up the tree and it's a different ball game completely. And I thought, what's happening? And what was happening was that Milt Kahl got that was his first drawing of the boy. And then he did this long sequence up with the boy up, and then the snake comes in. He had a couple of minutes of his own stuff, uninterrupted. And it was only on the Jungle Book, he was getting so irascible, he just said, I want a piece of this, and he just did a 10-minute section. And that just blew me away. I just said, I don't know anything again. Even though I had Ken Harris in captivity, I was about to lasso Art Babbitt to teach us. And I said, I'm hopeless. I don't even know how it's done, let alone ever be able to do it. So the conclusion is, you can only get so far on your own. You need the help of a master who knows. You can't reinvent the wheel. You can invent part of the wheel, isn't it? I mean, you can come in sideways at it in a new way, and but eventually, if you want to get to have the whole thing, you want to have the whole thing. At least I want to have the whole thing. And that means one has to absorb the materials developed by these old guys, the formula. Even if you don't use the cliches for takes, I'll show you all these Hollywood issue takes and things. Even if you don't ever use them, it's wonderful to know them, because then you have the security of knowing you can fall back on a known cliche or a known, you've got these things that you can use. And when they get in the bloodstream, because they're principles, use stick figures. The wonderful thing about using stick figures to show this stuff is that it's devoid of style. So you want to get these simple devices of how to do it, and do it in stick figure, which is very easy to test and see if they work. And absorb the method into your bloodstream, and boy, in time, there's this joke the guy's putting yogurt into a lake, old Turkish joke or something, and people are all laughing at him, and he's there every morning putting this yogurt into the lake, and they just said, "Are you out of your mind?" He says, "Listen, just imagine when and if it takes, you got a lake of yogurt," and that's how it was with me. Eventually, these things that we'll go through, they sort of 6 months later, it clicks in into the bloodstream. Clang. Oh, that's why they did that. Oh, and well, I can extend on that. I can push that further. So that's the advantage of knowing all this stuff.
I'll show you lots of formulas and devices that you can absorb and use and extend on them. But use your ideas, your style, your expression, and your culture. There isn't one way to do this, but what I'm giving you are the tools so that you can make whatever you want.
Lesson 1. This is very important. Very important. And they always say this will change your life. This lesson 1 changed my life enormously. So, lesson 1. Unplug. Whatever it is, take it out, switch it off, close the door, whatever is very necessary. I'm going to act out lesson 1 because this is how I got it. Oh, I could do a drawing of this. I went to see Milt Kahl, and he was a great big guy. That would be his feet. He had incredible concentration. His mouth like that, a big chin. Oh, this is very much like him. This is him. And he had his brains at the end of his hand. And he always worked with short pens. He seemed to always have a pencil. That's him. Like this. He's this big, tall guy at the Disney desk. And I was sort of, I was thinner. I was something like this.